welcome back everyone to my podcast, Everything Sports and Trade Talk. This is the fourth episode of my podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and this is what we are going to be talking about today. So we're going to be talking about four things. The first thing is the surprises in the new college basketball rankings. We're going to be talking about the new rankings for the top 25 AP poll. After that, we're going to dive into some college football playoffs. We'll be talking about the LSU versus Clemson game this coming weekend. I'm going to be doing a little bit of analyzing. And after that, we'll talk about the NFL playoffs and my picks for the coming playoffs. And finally, we're going to talk about the 2019 Year of Sports in Review, where we'll be talking about the incredible sports moments that happened in this past year, and we'll talk about what we are expecting in the 2020 sports year. So, without further ado, let's dive right into this next episode. Before we continue, let's take a quick break to thank our sponsor. If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. There are many reasons that Anchor is the best place to record your own podcast. First of all, it's free. You don't have to pay anything for the app. The second thing, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. It is literally so simple, and I am doing it right now. Thirdly, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Another great thing is you can make money from your podcast, obviously, with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So let's start off by talking about the surprises in the new college basketball rankings. So finally, Gonzaga stays the number one spot in the rankings. This seems to be the first time that a team has stayed in the number one spot for more than 1 week. So that's kind of exciting. There's not a new number one seed every week. That's the first time a team has held that spot. Number 2 is Duke, despite the loss to Stephen F. Austin earlier in the year. That was such a terrible loss because Duke definitely should have won. They have climbed up to number 2. Kansas, number 3. Auburn remains undefeated, 12-0 at number 4. Oregon up to number 5. They are an excellent team. Their point guard Peyton Pritchett is some kind of player, and he's been leading them well, so they're up to number 5. Number 6, Baylor. This is a surprising one. They seem to have come out of nowhere to snag that number 6 spot. Ohio State down to number 7, and the reason is because of turnovers. They just turn the ball over and over again against West Virginia, who I will talk about a little bit later. West Virginia beat them, and the Buckeyes just could not hold on to the ball. They just kept turning it over. Number 8, Villanova. They've been on a strong stretch after beating Kansas. Kentucky is at number 9. Louisville at number 10. They've been dropping despite the play of Jordan Nwora, an excellent player, an excellent small forward. After that, number 11, Michigan. After having such a strong start to the season, they've seemed to cool off a little bit. At number 12, Memphis. 13, Michigan State. They've seemed to have been hovering around the 13 through 15 spots, which is surprising considering that they were ranked number 1 entering the season. Of course, that may have something to do with Cassius Winston's personal problems. His brother, the tragic loss of his brother. Moving along to number 14, Maryland. Another surprising one. It seems like they should be higher. There was a lot of talk around this Maryland team in the preseason with their excellent guard, Anthony Cowan. But they just haven't seemed to live up to that quite yet. After that, number 15, San Diego State, number 16, Butler, 17, West Virginia. They had a strong outing against Ohio State, and they won that game, so they moved from, I believe it was 22 up to 17 after that strong win. 18, the Dayton Flyers. They've been having a good season. Number 19, the defending champions, Virginia. 20, Texas Tech. 21, Florida State. 22, Wichita State. They're a new one to the top 25 poll. 23, St. Mary's. 24, Penn State. They've seemed to have been staying around the 20s in terms of the ranking. And finally, number 25, St. John's. They have the Red Storm. This is their first time in the top 25. As I recall, they have not been in it yet. So that's your recap of the college basketball rankings and the surprises about them. So now let's move on into some football. So now I want to discuss the Clemson versus LSU matchup that's happening on Monday, January 13th. LSU is the 1 seed, 14-0, and Clemson the 3 seed, also 14-0. So two undefeated teams will be going at it on Monday the 13th. And I am super psyched about this game. For one, this may be the best quarterback matchup we have ever seen. I mean, Joe Burrow, he's the Heisman Award winner, and Trevor Lawrence, he may be putting together the best college football quarterback career ever. So this is going to be an awesome showdown between two excellent professional quarterbacks. Even though they're not technically professional, they carry themselves like they're professional, and they play on the next level. So this is going to be an awesome game. And now let's talk a little bit about the odds for this game. So, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, it favors Clemson over LSU. Clemson has a 55.9% chance of winning, and LSU has a 44.1% chance. And I assume that's because of Clemson's defense. They seem to have a stronger defense than LSU. In fact, Clemson gives up 10.6 points per game, while LSU gives up an average of 21.2. So I assume that's why Clemson is favored in this matchup, because of their stellar defense and because LSU's is not quite as good. Another thing to note about the LSU versus Clemson matchup is Clemson is very lucky that there is a longer break than usual between the semifinal and finals matchup. I came across this while reading a Sports Illustrated article, and I wanted to talk about it a little in this episode. So let's talk about the Clemson versus Ohio State game. So Clemson had a very physically and mentally taxing game. They were behind early in the game, and they had to come back. They had to scratch back to win, and they ended up winning 29-23. So it was a very physically and mentally taxing game. Meanwhile, LSU played Oklahoma, and they absolutely demolished them. They beat them 63-28, I believe. Yes, 63-28. And there was no pressure in that game. They scored like 48 points in the first half, so they could do what they want. There was basically no physical. It was a physically and mentally easy game after about halfway through the first quarter. So that's something to note. And Clemson is extremely lucky that there is a long break between the two, the semifinal and finals game. In the article, it says that the average amount of time between the semifinal and final games has been 9.8 days in the 5 years of the playoffs. This year, it is 16 days. So that goes in favor of Clemson because they were the ones that were beat up in the. They had the more taxing physically and mentally game during the semifinals. So that's just a little something to note, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. But besides that, I just want to express my excitement about this game. This is going to be an epic game, one that I'm really looking forward to, and I'd love to know what you guys think about it and who you think is going to end up, who's going to come out on top. So please leave a voice message if you to tell me who you think will end up winning this epic postseason playoff championship. So that's all I have to talk about for the college playoffs. Now I want to talk a little bit about the NFL upcoming playoffs. So the NFL playoffs that will be coming up very soon. So let's talk a little bit about the bracket. So for the AFC, the two wild card games are the Patriots versus the number 3 Patriots versus the number 6 Tennessee Titans. The Patriots missed out on a bye by losing to the Dolphins in their last game, and also because the Chiefs won. So they lost against the Dolphins, and the Chiefs won, which ended up costing them a bye. So they end up having to play the Titans in the wild card round. The other AFC wild card game is the Texans versus the Bills. And for the NFC, the Saints versus the Vikings, and the Eagles versus the Seattle Seahawks. So those are the wild card games for the AFC and NFC. And now the teams with the byes for the AFC and NFC. The number 1 ranked Baltimore Ravens, they have a bye, as well as the number 2 Kansas City Chiefs. And for the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. So that is the playoff bracket. And now let's talk about my picks for the NFL playoffs. For the first AFC wildcard game, it is the New England Patriots versus the Tennessee Titans. And I believe that the Patriots will win this game because of their defense. They have an excellent defense, and I believe that they will be able to contain Ryan Tannehill, the Titans quarterback, and also contain the rookie threat A.J. Brown, the rookie receiver, due to the fact that the Patriots have one of the, if not the best, cornerbacks in the whole NFL, Stephon Gilmore. And I believe if he plays well and shuts down A.J. Brown, the Patriots will take the win over the Titans. Also, if Brady performs remotely well, I know he hasn't been having an excellent season, probably because he is 42 years old. If he has a remotely good offensive day, I believe they will win, especially because the Titans are not very strong defensively. So my pick for the Patriots versus Titans, I'm picking the Patriots. And now the other AFC game is the Houston Texans versus the Buffalo Bills. And this is a very close one because they're ranked number 4 and number 5. But I believe that the Bills will pull off the upset, the small upset against the Texans, because once again, the Bills have an excellent defense, and I believe that they will be able to shut down Deshaun Watson, and they will be able to pull off the win. And also because Josh Allen has had an excellent season for the Bills, bouncing back from last season. He's thrown for more than 3,000 passing yards and 20 passing touchdowns. So because these are the two reasons I think the Bills will win, because of their Um, Excellent defense, not quite as good as the Patriots, but very good, and also because of Josh Allen's performance this season. So I believe that the Patriots will win, and also the Bills will win. For the NFC wildcard games, the two wildcard games are Seattle versus Philadelphia and the New Orleans Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings. So my pick for the Saints Vikings game, this one seems like a little bit of an easier choice to me. I believe that the Saints will win because of their explosive offense this year and the incredible season that the veteran Drew Brees, has been having. So I believe that he will once again have an excellent game and carry his team to another victory. So I believe that the New Orleans Saints will defeat the Minnesota Vikings. Now for the other game, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Despite ESPN believes that Philadelphia will has a 60.3% chance of winning. I believe that the Seahawks will win because Russell Wilson has once again had an excellent season, and because now that Marshawn Lynch is back, that will free up a lot of offensive plays, and even if he won't find receivers, which I'm sure he will, because that's just the kind of player he is. He has excellent vision, and I believe that he it will also his attribute of being able to scramble will also help him. So I believe that um, oh my gosh, Russell Wilson will be the factor in this game. I believe if he plays well, and I think he will, the Seahawks will win. So once again, I believe the Seahawks will defeat the Eagles, and the Saints will defeat the Vikings. So those are my picks for the AFC and NFC first round wild card games. And now let's dive into the 2019 sports year in review. I have picked out four awesome sports moments from the year 2019, and why not start it off with some football, because that's basically what I've been talking about today. So last year, the really impressive thing in NFL football was Jared Goff's playoff run with the Rams. He was incredible that year. I mean, his run with the Rams, that was just sensational. So that was really the big that was the impressive football moment, uh, per se. Not really moment, but run, as I said before, in the NFL. So Jared Goff's run with the Rams, that was just sensational. That was an excellent playoff team. The Rams were just fun to watch, despite losing 13-3 in the Super Bowl. After that, let's see. Oh yes, Kawhi Leonard's run with Toronto. Um, so Kawhi Leonard, he was with the Raptors last year. Now he is with LA, but he was something special for that Toronto team. I don't know if you guys remember, but he made that incredible shot against the 76ers that they bounced like 6 times before going in, and then they ended up winning the NBA championship. And who more deserving than Kawhi Leonard? He's the guy who's always giving his all on the court. He's one of the few guys in the NBA that plays defense, which I think is somewhat sad, because defense is just part of the game, and it seems like very few in the NBA care about it these days. But Kawhi Leonard, he's one of those guys that he'll give anything. He'll give anything to get his team a win, and he was the one that brought his team to the NBA championship and won it. So that was the really incredible sports moment of basketball. But zeroing in on the moment, that shot, that 3-pointer against the 76ers, that was just incredible. I mean, to get that kind of bounce, you have to have some kind of skill and luck. And as I said before, who more deserving than Kawhi Leonard? Moving along, the Little League World Series. The Little League World Series. If you don't really follow the Little League World Series, it's where Little League teams from all over the country, and other countries come to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, to play in a tournament to find out who the best Little League team in the world is. And during this past Little League World Series, there was this Louisiana team that was just an incredible group of kids. So it's a double elimination tournament. They ended up losing their first game and then won out and ended up winning the whole thing. They ended up winning the Little League World Series, and that was just fun to watch. Those kids, they were very resilient, and they showed real strength in the face of defeat, and especially this one kid named Reese Roussel. It was ridiculous. The kid he was an absolutely incredible hitter. It seemed like he could do no wrong at the plate. He had incredible confidence, and I believe he was a runner-up in the Sports Kid of the Year for the Sports Illustrated Kids issue. So that was really fun to watch, and that was one of the highlights of the 2019 sports year. And finally, finishing it out with a little bit of baseball, which I haven't talked about a lot of baseball in the past couple episodes. The Washington Nationals winning the World Series. They ended up beating the Astros, and that was something special. They, coming into the playoffs, they were nothing but a wild card team with an outside chance of winning, and Max Scherzer, Anthony Rendon, all those guys, they've been on a team without making it far into the playoffs before. And what made this truly incredible was they lost their big name. They lost Bryce Harper, and after losing him, they ended up winning the World Series. So that was really fun to watch. Those guys, they seemed not to care that they'd lost their moneymaker, per se. The guy that brought all the fans to the stadium every day. And they just defied all odds and ended up winning the World Series. So those are just a few of the exciting sports moments of in 2019, and I'd love to hear about any ones I missed. Please leave me a voice message if you'd like to add anything to my 2019 sports year in review, and that's really the end of this episode. So thank you for listening to this episode of Everything Sports and Trade Talk, and peace out.